Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Monday, October 19th, 2020. Fire potential impacts for the next couple of days are shown here. For today, we're looking for some continued showers over the higher elevations of central Idaho and into western Wyoming, and then another day of some winds over northern Utah. Those winds will continue into Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, winds become a little bit more widespread ahead of a system moving into the Pacific Northwest. So we still have very dry conditions across Utah and some wind, which will keep fire potential elevated in those areas. Not too much smoke to talk about in the forecast for today, just some smoke lingering from a couple of those fires in northern Utah. Precip for the past 24 hours was very light, just a little bit over the higher elevations of the far north and western Wyoming, and no lightning. A few little fires popped up yesterday over Idaho and one over far southern Nevada, and ongoing fire activity in some of our fires in northern Utah. Observed precipitation for the past 7 and 30 days is shown here. Over the past week, we have had a little bit of precipitation, mainly to the higher elevations of central Idaho and western Wyoming, with a few scattered showers over northern Utah, and the percent of average for the past 30 days still showing that very dry signal for Utah and Nevada. ERCs are still pretty high across much of eastern and southern Utah, and they've come down pretty much elsewhere across Idaho and northern Nevada. Taking a closer look here for Utah, for northern Utah, those values are still above the maximum historical values for the time of year, although they have come down from where they were about a week or 10 days ago, but still very high. And then further south, those values have dipped below the maximum historical values, so still very much above normal, but not quite as high as where they were, again, a week to 10 days ago. This morning's satellite imagery is showing a broad trough remaining in place over the central U.S. with a high pressure ridge off the California coast. So that'll keep dry conditions in place over Utah and Nevada today, with a little bit of moisture scooting into the northern portions of the basin. Again, looking for a little bit of moisture across the far north, with dry conditions across Utah and Nevada, and seasonal temperatures with sunny skies in those areas. If we take a closer look at the winds, we do have some increased wind speeds over eastern Nevada and western Wyoming associated with that trough to the north. Higher relative humidities up there don't pose such a threat for fire activity, but here further south in the Uinta Basin, northern Utah mountains, winds will be gusty there, and that is the area where we're seeing the fire activity, so something to watch for today. And precip, again, just looking for a little bit right along the northern and eastern periphery across the north. On Tuesday, more of the same is expected, maybe some continuing showers, possibly over central Idaho mountains and western Wyoming, continue dry across Nevada and Utah. And we'll continue to see some of those gusty winds across southern Nevada, or southern Idaho and northern Utah, still in the Uinta Basin and right in those areas where we're seeing some of those fires in northern Utah. Minimum relative humidities are up across the north, but pretty low across southern Nevada and southern Utah. On Wednesday, we begin to see a trough developing across the northern Rockies, the Pacific Northwest, which will increase wind speeds across the central Great Basin on Wednesday. So looking at those higher wind speeds across much of Idaho and western Wyoming and northeast Utah, where they'll be the strongest, but winds also pick up over eastern Nevada and southern Utah. Relative humidities are still pretty high across the north, but remaining low in the low teens across the south, southern Nevada and southern Utah. The 3-day precipitation totals are highlighting the precip expected for today and tomorrow over the central Idaho mountains and western Wyoming. On Thursday, that trough continues to move further eastward, possibly bringing a slight chance for some showers again to the central Idaho mountains and western Wyoming, but nothing further south over Utah or Nevada, just continued wind speeds. Winds will remain gusty on Thursday across much of the central Great Basin. And then on Friday, some moisture does begin to move into the Pacific Northwest associated with this trough as it remains in place and deepens somewhat. And so we'll see some moisture move into Idaho as well, and possibly begin to move into further south into Utah. And on Saturday, as the low moves further eastward and south, it actually looks like it might bring some moisture further south into Utah, with a chance of some showers there Saturday into Sunday as it actually moves further south into southern Utah. So we'll keep an eye on this forecast to see how much precipitation we may get into the state of Utah. Looks like Nevada still remains on the dry side through the period. But we do see some of our fire danger decreasing if that precipitation comes through as it's expressed in the models right now. So the precip totals for the next 7 days finally put some precipitation into Utah and even some into Nevada. Some pretty healthy amounts to the northern Utah mountains, over a half an inch possible, which would be pretty significant right now because of how dry it's been. But also bringing some precip to the lower elevations of Utah, maybe a tenth to a quarter of an inch. So we'll definitely watch and see how much of this precipitation actually makes it further south into Utah and Nevada, but definitely nice to see that much precipitation in the forecast. The extended forecast from October 26th to the 1st of November, calling for continued below normal temperatures across much of the northern Rockies, northern plains, and into the Great Basin. But we're back into that kind of a drier pattern. Not maybe as dry as we have been. So we'll see what's changing in the next couple of weeks. And this concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.